That brings us to our discussion agenda. Proposed revisions of the administrative rule for grading and assessment system shown in Exhibit F.
Thank you, Chairman Gant. If you'll join me with Exhibit F, this is our suggestions for how to revise the administrative rule regarding grading and assessment. If you're wondering why this is one step behind the other policy, we were waiting to get this particular draft from School Boards Association to make sure that the conversions are in effect to match the new 10-point scale that the state is expecting compliance with for our high school classes, and that includes course-bearing credit at the middle school level. We took before our parents' cabinet, which of course is representatives from all of our schools across the system, and there was support in that group that we did go towards a uniform scale in School District 5 to have one 10-point scale rather than 7-point elementary, intermediate, and some middle school classes, and then 10-point scale for course-bearing classes in our high schools. So to keep things simple, the request was that we did align the 10-point scale across the system to reduce confusion. If you look at Exhibit F, you'll notice where we have really personalized this is the first part of this administrative rule regarding kindergarten through second grade. We wanted to make sure that we outlined for you in the community how we actually assess our students' kindergartens through grade 2 of our M, our P, and our U to make sure that our language is reflective of the standards-based report cards that we use in School District 5. Following that, you're going to see the rest of the rule is in effect for grades 3 through 12, and this takes into effect the adjustments of moving to a 10-point scale away from a 7-point scale. But much of what you read beyond that first couple of paragraphs is already in effect. It's just been updated to make sure that we're in compliance with the 10-point scale. Mr. Gant, any questions that you'd like?
Anyone have any questions at this point? You did mention that that was an item that was touched on with the Parents Advisory Cabinet.
Yes, sir.
About 2 weeks ago. So.
Yes, sir. And our principals have seen it, and we've also shared this with our faculty advisory. So we feel like there hasn't been very much time that has been between the time this was passed as to time to get it in effect, but we tried to make sure we got it in front of as many advisory committees as we could, and we have had support and request for the 10-point to be consistent.
Any other question? Ms. Hutchison.
On page 4, I'm looking at, it's in the top portion where it's talking about the difference between the AP and the IB and the standard level and the higher level. And I guess I thought it was the other way around. So the AP course and the standard level course are on equal footing, but then the higher level IB gets double the amount.
This, again, was a recommendation of school boards, so we're trying to make sure that we're consistent. This was their suggested draft to us.
Now, that would be changed, wouldn't it?
This has been updated. What you see here is what school board sent to us just a few weeks ago.
But would that be a big change from what we've been
What
doing?
we currently do, I have to compare it to the previous policy, Ms. Hutchison. Let me flip back a few pages. They've changed the wording a little to try to clear up some of these, to make it simpler for the districts to adjust. So before it, the pages aren't numbered, but it's after the conversion chart. So that would be page 4 there as well from the existing policy. So for the sake of time, do you mind if I investigate that and report that to you next time?
Sure. Well, I see it in there, and I'm really surprised that it's not the understanding that I had when the program was first implemented.
introduced.
I thought that the AP and the higher level
Were comparable.
carried the same weight, and that the standard level was less weight.
As I look towards that last bullet, so far there is a direct match.
Right.
Mr. Bounds, you see anything that differs by chance? It looks to be the same. You know, that's a quick comparison, but it looks to be the same with what's currently in effect. The standard level SLIB course can carry only one quality point. However, 2 quality points of IB credit can be granted for higher level HL courses in the IB program that require a minimum of 240 hours of instruction. So that's a direct correlation of what's in effect now.
Is there any way that you could find out if that has always been the case? I can't remember what year it was that, I think it was 2006. 2005, 2006 was the first year of the implementation of the IB
Have I
program.
been at Irma High School? Okay.
And I would like to know what that was, because
Okay.
that certainly is a huge difference. And I knew that there was an advantage for being in IB, but I didn't realize this is not how I remembered it. Of course, that was 10 years ago. And
Sure. I'll go back and look, because looking at the revisions along the line, 2013, which of course is what's currently in effect, and then 2003 was prior to that. So we'll have to pull records from 2003 and see if we can find, maybe Ms. Stowers can help me retrieve those from our archives.
Okay, that would
Okay.
be great. That would be great. And I'm guessing Irmo High School would have that too.
Sure.
But thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Hammond?
My discussions along with Ms. Hutchinson, I very much remember that. It was a major thing between parents mainly about IB and AP and how it
And
counted.
students.
And students, oh yeah, but driven by the parents calling and understanding that with board members. So I think Ms. Hutchinson makes a good point for us to, because I understood it the same way she's remembering it, that it was very different than this. So, and that was my question. This, when you say school boards, this is coming down from, from the whole school board association. They're saying this is their recommendation to all school districts. So
Right.
we're all on the same page with the credit. So in case somebody would move from one school to another.
Yes, ma'am.
It'd
This
be-
came from their policy
Yeah,
office.
okay.
Dr. Richardson
Yeah.
is the name of the person that sent it to me.
I'd like to know that too. Thank you.
Okay, we'll pull that and report that to you next time regarding the 2003 policy.
Dr. Melton, would you speak to the concern that Parents Advisory Cabinet that came up from a person or two that this wasn't a watering down of a grade, this didn't make it easier to make an A or a B? An A was probably still an A, but that little bit of discussion went on, and we had some of that last time. Would you talk to that just a little bit? We have a small audience, but I'd love for my fellow board members to hear that again, too.
Mr. Gant, I've discussed with a lot of people, so if I get my advisory groups mixed up, guide me towards what the story is that you want me to share.
Share the good stories with the great concern and the wonderful answer you had,
I'll
Dr.
do my,
Hefner had.
well, I'm not sure what was wonderful about it, but I'll do my best. I think I will preface it with, grading is very personal to teachers, to parents, and to students, because they take it as a direct reflection of their ability to reach students, and students, of course, gauge their success as far as the grades that they post. So some of the families, and I'll use an 8th grader as an example. If we have an 8th grader who's taking a traditional 8th grade science class, who's on a 7-point scale, versus a Carnegie credit class, who's on a 10-point scale, it could be confusing to compare which is a 7-point scale, which is a 10-point scale. So in order to reduce the confusion, just to bring it to an alignment of a 10-point scale. Then we have had people that have shared with us that there's some concerns about grade inflation, and we even have heard that from the Commission on Higher Education, that we have to make sure that we recalibrate our thinking, is the phrase that the department is using with people in positions comparable to mine, as we try to train our teachers and make sure that we're making the shifts and attentive to course syllabus and things like that to make sure those things have been updated before anything were to go out next school year. So, Ms. Hammond, to go back to the question you posed earlier with the previous policy, Mr. Bounds and I decided we wanted to make sure that we had policy approved before we messaged anything, because we wanted to respect the work of you all as a board, that we didn't communicate anything until we knew that we had your support. So we were holding until that June 20th meeting when that other policy hopefully will be approved for all of you. But we wanted to make sure the message we put out was in direct alignment with what the policy is saying to prevent confusion and better educate our community. Mr. Gann, I'm not sure I'm getting where you want me to go. So we did hear the concern about the grade inflation. We do hear great trust of our teachers with our students, because our teachers have proven to be successful. The students we recognize tonight is just evident of that. SAT and PSAT does not happen in 1 year. It's a culmination of a child's entire educational experience, as well as the support of the family. What exactly?
I think you've touched all around. I think the thing that it's not going to be necessarily easier to make a certain grade, and you talked about the education of our teaching staff, the syllabus, all those things gearing toward what it takes to make an A,
Right.
whether it's a 90 or a 93.
Right.
And that probably is going to make it even toughen it up, in my opinion. But
Well, and we're making sure that we have right-sized things such as national beta, admission into the beta club. We have to make sure that even those kinds of things are taken into consideration. So all the publications we're preparing for the 16-17 school year, to make sure that we don't just update the communication documents, but we also update the criteria for getting to certain recognitions, so that we have updated those things to make sure they're in compliance with the new scale.
Right. As usual, you answered it well, and there was a lot of concerns and a lot of
There
different
was,
questions.
yes, sir.
Ms. Hammond.
And I would say, along with what you were after with her too, as a teacher, you simply can, if 90 to 100 is the new grading scale, you simply make your evaluation and your assessment, at a higher level to get the 90. So in a way, it's just numbers, and it's up to the teacher with the rigor of what's going to be the 90. So it really doesn't dumb down. It may sound like that, but what parents need to know is the teacher can change the rigor. So the rigor to make the A at 90 is going to be a harder rigor.
And I would agree. I think the teacher's going to expect a certain amount of work and production for an A.
Absolutely.
And that's what came out in that meeting, too. Thank you. Anyone else have anything? If not, I'd remind everyone that our next meeting is June 20th. It'll be for at the Center for the Advanced Technical Studies. That will be our public meeting and our second and final meeting of the budget. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Ms. Baumgartner,
Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn.
have a second? Mr. White, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you very much.